So hello to you all. I hope you are staying safe, you are keeping safe, you are staying at home in this time of the COVID-19. So today I wanted to discuss the problem of racism and abuse. Over this week there's been a video that has gone viral about a Zambian national who was called a foreigner while he's being in Zambia. And this happened at one of the shops in Lusaka, which happens to be a restaurant and a shop. The reporter put it outrightly when he said that it feels bad to be called a foreigner in your own country. So to the turn of things, the Lusaka City Council happened to have closed down the restaurant for them having been operating without a license and having had an expired certificate. Worse off, they were selling products that were labeled in Chinese rather than in English as prescribed by the law. Discrimination of any kind is unjustifiable. Discrimination in itself is evil. For instance, this racial discrimination. This is a discrimination that is founded on race. Simply, the pigment of a person determines his position in the society, or the color determining how human someone is, or how more human or how equal they are. I think this is an argument that is based on absurdity. Racism comes from the background of stereotypes, and racism has been the argument, or it has been used as the grounds for purporting evils such as slavery and some other evil systems that have been orchestrated by different people in history to abuse other people. There are some races that feel that they are more superior than other races. But this is a misguided and a misconceived ground. There is no human being who is more human than others, because the color combination does not determine who a human being is. Because even when you get burned, or you have probably a skin problem or sickness or disease, you don't cease to be a human being. You still continue being human. Therefore, to argue that someone is more human because they have a particular color is absurdity of its greatest degree. I have said racism is a global problem. It's not global in the sense that it is a trend that is accepted. No, because it is a trend that has appeared perennially and in different places. Like for instance, we've seen footballers who've suffered at the hands of football fans, or we have seen footballers being victims of racism on the pitch. They have been bullied, like they have suffered all kinds of racial discrimination simply because they are black, or they have a color that is considered lower than that of the fans or people of a particular habitat. So, are there other races that suffer at the hands of other superior races? Oh yes, they are there. Now, in the reported video of a Chinese national, like having had abused a Zambian by stating or by saying that that Zambian was a foreigner, or that Zambian was not to enter that particular facility. It is not the first time when a Chinese national has been involved in a controversial scenario. I remember some few months ago, or just like almost a month ago, there was a Chinese restaurant in Kenya as well, where one of the bosses was allegedly to have been giving strokes to the workers once they report late, and there were other forms of abuse. And so the turn of events, the one who was captured in that video, he was deported within the 24-hour period of time. So, can we be in a position to label all the Chinese as racist? No. I think there are some other Chinese people who are good, other Chinese people who follow the law. So, we cannot term the whole Chinese race as racist. Now, my thoughts and my question over this, because for me, this scenario is just a tip of an iceberg. There could be other forms of abuse that the locals suffer, especially those who are working for Chinese companies or maybe Indian companies and so forth and so on, or at any of those companies where probably the majority people of a particular race or background or people of a particular advantage. Does it take a citizen to become a victim of racial discrimination or abuse for the authority to be aware that the citizens are being abused? I don't know. Does it take a citizen to suffer discrimination or abuse in their country for authorities to act? I think in leadership and management, one has to be proactive and active. You become proactive by making sure that the necessary conditions are fulfilled by a particular group or by a particular institute or an individual who comes to work in a country, but they satisfy those conditions so as to avert the possible future abuse, and to become active in the sense that whenever there's a situation like the one we had just experienced, the leadership responds in such a way that they don't take time, they don't drag to see to it that such an abuse is attended to. So where have the authorities been all this while that restaurant and shop was operating without a license? Didn't they know about it? So how many companies or how many shops are operating in such a position or in such kind of circumstances where they don't satisfy the legal standards of the country where they are working? So the victims are either the citizens who go to such kind of places to go and access services, or the workers, those who are working for such kind of institutions. We can just imagine what kind of abuse they suffer or what kind of experiences our citizens have been having. Well, the authorities would possibly excuse themselves or save themselves by saying that nothing was reported. But do we always need a report for you to know that the citizens are being abused? So the government has to become proactive, check the conditions of the people who work for such kind of companies. How are the conditions of the workers? Are they really following the labor laws of the country? So what is the implication of all this? We may rightly deduce that someone is not doing his job, someone is not doing her job. Because where does a foreigner or someone who is not a citizen gather the courage to call a citizen a foreigner? Because to call someone a foreigner who is a citizen, you literally strip them of their legal status in the country. We may as well infer to say possibly someone could have received a bribe for them not to do anything about it. Let us say there are many cases for that nature that have not been reported, especially for those who are working for such kind of institutions. So the government should negotiate a better deal for its citizens. You cannot sacrifice your own people at the expense of foreign direct investment, because human dignity can never and should never be traded for investment. If someone does not satisfy the required conditions, should never be allowed in the country, or they should never be allowed to operate. So the Lusaka City Council has said they're going to follow up institutions such as one that was closed to check if really they have valid documents that allow them to operate. But are they just going to target the Chinese? We don't know. I feel they have to target each and everyone who is operating, whether Zambian or non-Zambian or whichever status the person has, as long as there's abuse of any kind, whether based on racial grounds or just based on an advantageous background of an individual. Say no to racism.